Okay. Okay. So today we talk about the data guard and what is data guard, what is standby database. So there are a few things we have to know about theoretically before to do it practically. So in Oracle, we have a facility to create a standby database, to maintain a standby database. Okay, now first of all, what do you mean by standby database? Let's focus on, let's try to understand that. Okay. Yeah, perfect. So let's say I have my primary database here. I have my primary database here. So basically copying of this database to another server is called the cloning, right? Basically copying of this database to, let's say I have one. Let's say I have one DB. Primary database. This is on server.
Are you sharing your screen, Banu?
You're not able to see my screen?
Yeah, yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Now it's visible. Yeah.
It's visible. Let's assume this is a server 1. Okay. Server 1. Server 1, we have the primary database. Okay. Copying of this database to another database is called the cloning. Okay. Another database is called the cloning. Let's assume that I have a server 2 and here I have the test or dev or anything. This is server 2 database and here I have the test dev or anything or anything. Okay, and copying the database from this server to this server is called the cloning. Copying of database to another database is called cloning. That's what we have seen yesterday, right? This is the whole process of cloning. Now, what is the data guard configuration? What is the concept it is? I'll tell you. So basically, when we are copying that, the database name is our choice. You can have any database name that might be test, dev, or UAT as per your needs. But this is called cloning. But in data guard configuration, let's see what will happen. Okay, server 2. And again, here we will have the standby database. Standby database. Now, so basically the standby concept is the reason for to have the standby database is basically it's for disaster recovery. We can call it as a disaster recovery. Suppose something happens to my server 1, something happens to my server 1 and it crashes. If it crashes, okay, and then I have an option to, if I have a proper backup, if I have a proper level 0 backup and all archives backup, I can able to restore it. But restoring the backup, it will take the time, right? it will take at least some time. During that time, the entire business would be on shutdown. People may lose crores. Okay, so to avoid that downtime, Oracle come up with the one concept called data guard configuration, which is nothing but standby database, maintaining of standby database. So what is a standby database is? So suppose I have end users here. 1, 2, 3 end users here. They are connected to server. They are connected to server, and they are keep on updating or performing the transactions. Performing the transactions. You know what do you mean by transactions, right? What is transaction? Performing the queries, updating the tables, inserting, deleting anything. Basically, they are communicating with the database here. Okay, now Oracle allows to maintain the standby database, same as replication of our primary database. Same as replication of our primary database. So here, standby database, we have server 2. Suppose if for some reason the server 1 crashed, immediately we can bring up the server 2 or standby database. We can bring up it as a primary database. The term itself is saying that standby, it's a just real-time backup of database. Arthamatunda? So once if suppose people are performing these transactions, they are updating, and here the now you can ask me how can the real-time transaction will be applied here. How can the real-time transactions will be applied here? Now so whenever people performing the transactions, tell me guys, on which files it is storing? Data files, right? And along with redo log files. And redo log files will be backed up in the form of archive log files, right? So the standby database will be keep on updating by using the archive logs from the primary database. Do you understand? The primary database. So archive. Archive logs will be shipped and applied in standby DB, so that the primary and standby will be keep on sync with in real time. Keep on sync with real time. So now once this server is crashes, we no need to restore from the backup. We can directly bring up the standby database as a primary database, since it's a real-time backup of primary database. Clear? How can it will be completely sync with primary? It will be completely sync with primary by using the archive logs. So archive logs will be shipped from the shipped. You know what do you mean by shipped, right? It will be transferred. It will be transferred to the standby server. There it will keep on applying in real time. Suppose I have performed one transaction. Let's say archive 1 is generated. Archive 1 will be shipped to the server. Archive 1 will be applied on this database, so that all the data will be applied. Similarly, archive 2, archive 3, archive 4, everything, whatever up to date archives will be keep on shipping to the standby server, and here it will be applied. So this entire process we'll call it as a data guard. The entire process we call it as a data guard configuration, data guard setup. Now we have the standby database. So Oracle will allow you to create the up to 30 standby database for a one primary database, up to 130 standby. So it's no need of, I mean, it's not restricted to maintaining the only one standby. You can have n number of standbys which associated with your primary database. So what it means? So I can have server 2, I can have server 3, I can have server 4, and so on. So the primary database will be connected to the server 2, and the primary database will be connected to server 2, and at the same time the primary database will be connected to server 3, and the primary database will be connected to server 4, and so on. Server 2, server 3, server 4, and so on. So up to 30 standby database you can maintain. So if any cases, if any worst cases, if this primary database or server is crashed, you can bring up the any of these server or any of these standby database as a primary database. Clear on this? So how can it will be in sync with primary database? Archive logs will be keep on applying on the standby database servers. Okay, so I've given some theoretical part here. Oracle Data Guard delivers high availability. You know high availability, right? When the primary goes down, you can immediately bring up the standby as a primary. And the data protection, suppose if something happens in primary database, we can immediately fetch the data from standby and restore it to primary. Disaster recovery. That's what if some due to some disaster, if we lost some server, we can bring up the standby as a primary. Data guard configuration consists of one production database having the primary role and one or more standby database having the standby roles. So this is a primary database. These and all are the standby databases. Wait a second. Okay, sorry for that. So, so what is the connection? What is the connection between these two? Where is this my paint? Yeah. So these will be always in communication by using the Oracle Net Services. Oracle Net Services that I think I have told the listener and TNS names to you, right, guys? So these standby servers will be using the connection string of production. That's how they will be in communication with each other. Okay. So what is the requirement? The minimum requirement is the server should be identical as the primary database server. The standby server should be identical as the primary database server. And they both should be in communication. So the server 1 should be able to ping the server 2, server 3, server 4, server 5. In similar way, the server 2 should be able to ping the server 1, 3 should be able to ping the server 1, 4 should be able to ping the server 1. They should be able to ping each other. Okay. Then, so the data guard configuration can be done in 2 ways. One is in SQL command, and another one is data guard broker. So data guard broker, it is kind of advanced topic. So we create and maintain the standby database in SQL command prompt. And apart from this, we have a 3 standby methods. One is a physical standby, another one is logical standby, another one is snapshot standby. What is physical standby? It's basically physical standby ante entante manaki ikkada ee setup unnappudu, suppose if you create any data file or redo log file or anything, the server 2 will be automatically replicating the all physical files. When I say physical files, if you create one data file here, it will be automatically created in server 2. And these archive logs will be applied. Archive logs will be keep on applying it. That is a physical standby server. So we have a logical standby server, which is nothing but if you do any operations here, it will convert to the SQL query, and the SQL query will be applied in the server 2. SQL query will be applying on the standby database. Instead of archive logs, SQL queries will be applying. That is called the logical standby. Snapshot standby is nothing but it's just a snapshot moment of the whole server, and we can restore it here. That is called the snapshot standby. So in majority of cases, people will use the physical standby. So that we will focus on the physical standby. Got it? So here, if you see here, physical standby, identical copy of primary database compared on block level. All database physical and logical structures of data like data files, schemas are the same. So it will be applied in the form of archive logs. Logical standbys means nothing but it will be applied in the SQL form. That's all. So, and we have a data guard protection modes. We have 3 protection modes: maximum performance and maximum availability and maximum protection. So this is kind of interview question. How many modes we have in data guard setup is maximum performance, maximum availability, and maximum protection. What is a maximum performance? So in this mode, it doesn't affect the primary database performance. So once the transaction is done in primary, it doesn't care about whether it is applied in standby servers or not. It will be keep on going. But in maximum availability mode, once this is done, archive log redo logs will be generated, right? It don't commit the transactions until it applies any one of the standby redo log files. It don't commit the transactions in primary until it will be applied in any one of the standby redo log files. If it applies to the one standby, then it will go. Now maximum protection. So when the transaction are going, it will wait. It don't commit the transaction until it writes any one standby. If it is unable to write the standby, the primary database will go down. The primary database will shut down. That is in maximum protection mode. But whereas in maximum availability, it don't shut down, but it will be keep on waiting until it writes the archive logs in any one of the standby database. In maximum performance, it don't wait or it don't shut down the database. You guys understand?
Yeah, Banu.
Okay, so this is the concept of data guard. So we have a setup for this. It's some kind of very big topic. So it takes the time of 1 or 2 hours to. So I'll find some feasible time to show it practically. We can able to practice it. Okay, but meanwhile,
Sure,
I'll
sure.
send this document in a group. So you guys please go through this and let's have it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, guys. I'll just see you. If you don't have any doubt, we can drop off.
Sure.